Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining the first virtual Social Bakers Roundtable discussion. I'm just going to invite the panelists to turn on their webcams as well so that we can start this. So if the team can turn their cameras on. And of course, thank you all for joining. I know that you're joining from everywhere around the world. So please, if you can, let us know in the comment section, where are you joining us from? We're really curious to know. And in the meantime, I would encourage also for you to kind of in the chat, when you answer where you're joining from, to change the setting to in your response, not to just all panelists, but also all attendees, so that everyone can see where you're coming from. So we have people joining us from London, from Istanbul, from Amsterdam. We got people from Indiana joining us, and from Italy, and the UK, and Canada, and of course, Czech Republic. It's so nice to see all of you here, and this is quite a big crowd already. And of course, this event is for you. So we want to answer the most pressing questions about kind of what's happening right now. And we brought a pretty impressive kind of panel of social media marketing, or just marketing superstars, that can help us through this conversation. And I just want to introduce them right away. So we have a couple of people. So we have, and maybe rather than just introduce you, I'll let you introduce yourselves to the audience. So we have Katie. Katie, do we have you here?
Yeah, I'm here. Hi, everyone. So amazing to see so many people from around the world. Yeah, I'm Katie. I'm Managing Director of Social Chain UK. We are a social media marketing agency and a publisher network as well, based in Manchester, England, which is actually really sunny today, unlike this stereotype of rain.
Right, and then we have Francesca.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, my name is Francesca. I'm with Jägermeister since quite a while now, joining you from Germany, which is also quite sunny here in Wolfenbüttel. Yeah, looking forward to a vivid discussion.
And we have, well, Amelie from Social Bakers. Amelie, can you introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, I'm Amelie, as Manta said, from Social Bakers, Senior Product Marketing Manager, and I'm joining from Prague, which is still sunny.
Yeah, and Mira, thanks for joining too.
Hi everyone, Mira here from Friesland Campina, sitting in Amsterdam. Well, there's sun today, but not on the side of my house, unfortunately. I am, well, I've been working with the Social Bakers for quite some time now. Now I'm currently handling the digital and the media marketing for Africa at Friesland Campina. So really, thank you for having me.
Thanks, Mira. And Stefan, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Mantas, and thank you for having me. My name is Stefan Lopresti. I'm a content marketing manager at NCSoft. I work in the video game industry, and this is a hi from sunny Seattle in Washington, USA.
Thanks, Stefan. And me, I'm Mantis, and I head up the content team here at Social Bakers. So I'm going to try to, with Amelie, moderate this conversation, and Amelie is going to be helping us out in the chat a lot. So we'll try to take your questions and have them answered here right away. And I want to, excuse me, I want to jump into the first question right away. So maybe starting with Katie. So what's been the most challenging thing for you about moving all the marketing remotely? I feel like it's certainly been a challenge for us in the beginning, but I feel like we're sort of getting the hang of it. What about you?
Yeah, I think, well, Social Chain is built on things changing anyway. So for us, it has been very unusual, I'm not going to lie, but we are built to be agile. So we've adapted very quickly. And the thing that I think has probably been the most challenging is making sure that we keep the culture at the heart of what we do, and also keeping that communication line between everyone to make sure projects run smoothly. But we've managed to adapt a lot of our offering, whether that is outdoor productions that we now can't do, into other alternative methods. We've still managed to do influencer campaigns by shipping equipment through Ubers and making sure that lots of things get to the places they need to, so we can still produce the content that we want to produce, and the level of expectations that we've got are being met. But yeah, it's probably, the challenge has probably been just the fact that we're not all together. But we're getting there, and it's been very well managed by the team and the senior team, as to make sure everyone is still connected and still feel like we're really close as much as we can.
And well, also curious to hear what are those things, that feeling of connected. So for me, I felt like almost over-connected in the beginning, where there's just too many communicational channels that I think I realized, where you were getting messages maybe on Slack or whatever you're using, kind of, then you have the email, then people are sending you personal messages, and it's just this sort of panic messaging each direction. And that was challenging for me in the beginning. Who can kind of comment here, maybe similar experiences?
Yeah, I'm going to jump in and say, Matas, you're correct. There was a little bit of an adaptation. Having like so many different platforms, also, like you have to go on Zoom, you have to go on Teams. I was like on 6 different communication channels at some points. So we needed to really align those pieces, because I've been at home for like 6 weeks now. It's been pretty tough, and organizing our day, organizing the different channels and the way the information flows and how people work with those tools has been an absolutely critical part of adapting to these new times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
What
think that was
about
also the case for us, if I may jump in here.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think we were lucky that we had all these tools, but we had to establish rules how to use them. So really figure out, okay, who am I going to contact when, via which tool, and where to put the contents on and so on. But we're also getting there. But I have to say that we're kind of, not just me, but also my colleagues, we have this Zoom fatigue now. So because there's one Zoom call after another, and I really like talking to people on the phone right now also. So I'm enjoying that as well.
Yeah, it's nice to have some time off the screen as well, right? Because you're just like, even in your free time now, when you're in contact with anyone, then you're also doing it all over the screen usually.
Yes,
that's exactly like just the fatigue of the eyes that I'm feeling from constantly being on a screen. And usually throughout your day, you have meetings, but you go and see someone in person, right? Mira, what about you?
Yeah, so I think first, to cover the point of, the challenge of moving the marketing remotely, I think if you work in digital, we're a bit fine with that, because we're always, or most of the time, we're a bit agile, or a bit, like working from home or working with teams that are not really sitting with us, especially me, because I'm sitting here in Holland, but the team is sitting in Africa. But the challenge for us mainly was how to bring in this new culture of home office to Africa, because that was not really something that is quite big as in Europe or in US probably. Mm-hmm. So that was one thing. But then we had to work on a plan, which is a connectivity plan that we put in, and we had to streamline. Okay, what should we focus on? Which platforms to use? How often should we have like a catch up with the team just for coffee, or outside of the business, of course.
Right.
But I think for us was a bit challenging to how can we keep the motivation going, and I think that's the hardest part now that we have, is that sometimes people lose a bit of, they're a bit tired, they're just, they've drained, their energy is drained. And so we've also put in a plan of how can we integrate that into the part of, okay, staying connected.
Yeah. There's already really good 2 questions coming in from the audience, and it relates to what you kind of just said. Well, for most of us, let's say, like you said, for digital marketers, it's a bit easier. We already had a lot of these practices in place, but I still find like we're learning a lot through this process of adapting to all digital marketing. What do you think is going to stick in terms of how we work now when we kind of emerge from this crisis? What are we going to take away from here? And maybe I don't know, Katie, do you want to kind of go back into the conversation in this?
Yeah, of course. So I think we are learning so much in terms of efficiencies that we can make. I think the old norms that we had to be in certain places, we had to be in the office all the time, and things like that. I think that'll definitely change. We're also focusing on things that we actually really need, and I think all of us, our time is going to be spent better. I think we'll be able to really differentiate between work-life blend rather than balance, and I think that's something that's definitely going to come out of this. We're already looking at what we are going to offer in terms of how we operate when this is all over, because I really can't see things going back to how they were. I think this is the new norm, and I think it's quite exciting for us as a workplace.
Yeah. There's an interesting comment coming in from Claire, who's joining us from West Berkshire. And she says that their agency has been working remotely for 11 years. And for them, it was strange to find that, it wasn't actually so usual. And people are kind of, didn't have those processes in place. And it is kind of, I know when I speak to some of my freelancer friends as well, and their responses are sort of like, what are you complaining about? This is just life for some people.
That's true.
Yeah. But what do others think about what are we going to take away from this into the future?
Go ahead, Mira.
Yeah, Mira, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, thank you. No, I was just going to say that I think the working from home would be more and more acceptable with companies, and will be more, at least from my point of view, it will be the new normal moving forward. Because definitely this pandemic will change a lot, and will have it will have a lot of impact on the society and the humanity in general. And this new behavior, or that what we see now that's happening, everything is just becoming to be in the house. It will remain for the rest of our life, probably. That's how I see it personally. But also, I would say that the speed of working and adapting to changes quickly, and being able to change a whole year's strategy or plan in 1 day or in 2 days, that will be something new also to adapt. Because usually in big corporate, you take months, probably 2, to finalize your strategy and plan. But now with this pandemic, we had to change everything in the speed of sound. So I think that's also something to be taken out of this on a productivity and on a more agile working, I would say.
Yeah.
On the topic of productivity, we just had a good question from the panel as well. Faju was asking one for Katie specifically, as she's a big one on the topic of mental health and well-being. What kind of advice would you share with people coping with mental stress, especially as they are now in this confined area?
I think it's about, I am a big advocate of knowing yourself and knowing your own mental health, but this is just such an unknown. I think we're all learning new things about ourselves and the way we cope. And I think it's just about being kind to yourself and making sure that you give yourself time to really take time. Don't spend all your time on phone calls. If you just need a small break, make sure you do take that time outside, because you need it. I'm on my own, I'm isolating by myself, and it is a very odd situation not to have human contact for such a long time. So for me, I've gone along that roller coaster, and it's just about being kind to yourself and knowing that it's not forever. We're going to get through it. I feel like the end is coming close. I think Steve, our CEO, made an amazing analogy before, that we're on a boat. We are currently sailors. We can't see the shore anymore from where we set off, and we can't see the place where we're getting to, but we know we're on that journey. And if you think in those terms, it really helps give you a little bit of a boost in mental health confidence.
Can I add, Katie? It's a great answer, and I wanted to say, a compliment to being kind to yourself is to be kind to others in the exact same way, because others are struggling in very different ways, and had that, because we don't have always just face-to-face contact or the voice-to-voice contact. It's really difficult sometimes to assess with electronic communication, online emails, all that stuff. It's really difficult to see a context, and for the teams to get together and understand each other and their struggles. I'll mention one. I've got 2 kids around the house. Not everybody has that environment with them. There are also situations, there are good days and there are bad days and it's totally okay to say it. Like, I'm having a bad day, tell the team, tell the others.
Right.
I think we're all more productive as well at home. Like the distractions when you're in the office, I find that I get a lot more done when I'm at home. And I know it's different for me because I've not got the kids to look after and things. I've not got kids to look after, but that thinking in those terms of being kind to yourself, knowing that you've probably been really productive, even though you feel like you've not worked as many hours as you normally would. That's okay. That's all right. Just set yourself goals every day. And
but I think even when you have kids, I mean, that's also the case for me. I have 2 kids at home. They're quite little still. And whenever I have time, I really, like, I focus a lot, and I'm way more effective than I used to be in the office, because then you have coffee and you have a chat with a colleague, and it's also great and nice and important. But I see that I get the same amount of work done as in the office, and even more maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other hand side, I think it's great to see that I have still this feeling of community, because as you said, Katie, we're on the same boat, so we're on this together, and it kind of I have this feeling in my background, let's say, and that keeps me motivated also, and to see, as Mira also said, how people adapt to situations, how things like finally explode and develop, and then you get things done in a minute instead of 3 months. So that's super impressive, and I think that's something that we should not forget when the times change again. So
yeah, I certainly hope so. And it's really, by the way, awesome to see so many questions coming in from the audience, and I hope, Amelie, you're able to pick out some of the good ones. And maybe before we move to the next section, Amelie, do you want to pick out one question from the audience to kind of
Actually, maybe not question, but Claire, who was saying that they're already working remotely for more than 11 years, she shared some really great tips on how they can make it work. And she was saying for them it's really important to centralize the channels, not trying to be too clever and doing everything at once. So what we've already been talking about as well, to kind of like streamline your communication rather than jumping from Slack to email to, I don't know, WhatsApp and whatever. Then a big up as well for video chat, which doesn't always have to be a meeting. So just kind of like hanging out with your colleagues as well. And there's also been so many like wine hours, and Mantis, you were just saying that you were on a remote birthday party before. So Claire is reckoning that as well. And then making sure that your IT is up to scratch. As a very important one, and acting like you still are going out. So get out of your pajamas, everyone. Looks like at least all the video participants are. So that's another tip from her.
Those are really good ones.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to move us to the next part of the conversation, and just going to jump back into the presentation. So this comes back to what we do as marketers. So well, should your business be communicating during this time, and what should the message really be? And I'm really curious to ask how your businesses have actually communicated during this time, and what kind of strategy you decided to take. Maybe Francesca, do you want to start this one?
Yeah, sure. Of course, it was a bit challenging for us, because in the first place we didn't know what to do, and I mean, Jägermeister is available in more than 120 countries, so there's quite a big difference from country to country when they stepped into this crisis and how. But what we did first was really to stop everything and like hold on for a second and think about, okay, what are we going to do next? And for us, it was really important as a business to not try to get an advantage of the situation and to, I don't know, fake empathy, or to come as a savior and say, hey, we're going to donate millions of dollars and so on. So we wanted to first show respect and understand the situation, and try to see how this is going to evolve, and to give back to our community and to society. So, I mean, what we did then was to really try to understand how we can help and support. And I mean, Jägermeister, as you may know, is a nightlife brand. So what we did first was really to try to think about how we can support this nightlife community and our target group and that we did first. So we established some tools to support bars and clubs and discotheques, and also a network, because we have a great network of artists and musicians. So there's a lot going on here, and that happens for B2B as well as B2C, because on the other hand side, you have a lot of users that like the brand and wanted to see how the brand is reacting to that. And what we're trying to do here is really to offer entertainment to people, to really see, okay, what are they struggling with the most? Can we maybe support them in becoming a good mixologist, or in listening to great music and offering them great live streams from bars and from clubs and DJ sets. So there's been a bunch of activations that I think are really brilliant. And yeah, but first we really needed to take a step back and understand what's going on. So that was the most crucial thing for us.
Yeah. So can anyone else share the same sentiment, sort of stopping in the moment? Mira, how did you react with the team? And I'm just going to stop sharing my slides so that we can see the faces more closely.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, actually, we did the same. We had to pause everything. We had to take out all our content in Africa, and so I can step back one moment. For those who don't know, Friesland Campina is a Dutch dairy company. So our products are mainly in North Africa, cheese, and then we have milk and powdered milk and evaporated milk in West Africa. So we had to pause for a minute. We had to take out all communication online. We had to rethink a bit. But first, we didn't want to just go out and start bombarding people, because we knew that people they're drained now. So we wanted to first listen to them, see what are the insights, see what's happening out there, listen to the people, evaluate all this kind of data. So we did a lot of research. We had to, put down or focus on consumer behavior, new trends that we see now, and how can we take those and embed those into our communication strategy. So we put in we focused on a few things that go hand in hand in our communication strategy and business objective. And then we had to come up with a new communication strategy for the brand. But we wanted to just not take advantage of the situation. We just wanted to be supportive. We wanted to kind of entertain the people, but also we wanted in a way to give them reassurance or assurance in a way, because they wanted, or they launch for positive sentiment, and they seek for confidence, and they want trust. So if they don't trust your brand, then you lose in this moment. So we wanted to be authentic, and we wanted to kind of be transparent with them and give them what they need in their house. So that's what. So the tone of voice kind of changed in our communication. We kept our main strategy, but we tweaked the tone of voice and the communication.
Yeah, and you mentioned trying to understand consumer trends in the moment, and I don't know how others kind of felt about that moment. It wasn't so easy to right away figure out how do actually consumers feel about this entire thing right away.
Yeah, I think the one good thing that happened with us is that the crisis started first in Asia and in Europe, and then it started later on in Africa. So we got some insights already in these regions that we saw the same everywhere in the world. So we were able to kind of take some of the learnings there, and move faster in Africa. So yeah.
Yeah, and Katie, what was the experience like for you?
It's slightly different for us. So it's mainly our clients that we had to be really mindful of their communication. For us, we've just adapted our offering based on what we can do. So for us, our animation has gone up a lot, and the way that we can work from home and still get content out for clients. But I think the thing that we've noticed is we spent a lot of time looking at data, understanding how people were feeling, what they were looking for. But it's that authenticity piece. It's the same with anything on social. If you start behaving out of your normal authentic arena, I guess, it comes across and people know that straight away, and then that's when you're going to get called out and trust will get lost. People are looking to be entertained. There is a need for escapism. So the stuff that Jägermeister's been doing sounds absolutely fantastic, and it's the right thing to do. We've done similar things with our clients. And it's just understanding what people are needing right now. Do they want to be entertained? Do they want to learn? Live streams are really interesting because every man and his dog are trying to do a live stream right now. So we've been working to try and figure out what people want from live streams and how to make yours stand out and keep attention up, which I think is probably the most important thing right now. So I don't think stopping altogether is the right thing unless you're going to come out and say something totally inappropriate in this market. I think you need to keep your brand up. Selling is not right in certain aspects now, but I think brand building is key, and I think this is a good time for that to happen.
Maybe at this point I can jump in with 2 questions for from the audience, which you kind of like touched upon, Katie, now. So we had one question which was specifically about like sales-oriented communication. So you were already saying it has to be in a specific way to be appropriate at the moment. Maybe if you could elaborate a bit more on that. And then another topic which is about like brand building. So we had one question about if a brand is just starting out, how can they start out in a situation like this right now?
Yeah. May I jump in here maybe?
Of course.
So we really had to massively change our type of our way of communication, because we are party brands. So we do a lot around going out, clubbing, festivals, like all that stuff, which is not happening right now. So we really had to be respectful towards the situation and just stop that immediately and just not show people, hey, this is a fun party brand and we love to hang out with people, but do the opposite. So really understand what people want and what they maybe are interested in. And I mentioned already, mixology was a thing. So there were tutorials, live streams, as I said, but it was really challenging for us to like change this, and it was quite dramatic, let's say, or massive. Yeah.
Can I echo that and answer? The second question is interesting because in fact, we announced a new game right before this crisis at the end of February. And then coming into March, we had this completely new game. It's a big music game we were launching. And then the crisis fell upon us and our plans have to be completely changed. And I think to echo what all the other panelists said, the important part of what's going on is to really understand the context, really understand the audience, understand your local and global context, what tools you're going to be using and how they've changed, and adapt accordingly. For example, in the case of our music game, we had a lot of pictures and videos that were going to promote crowds. We stopped doing that. We removed all kinds of crowds because of social distancing. That was a really important part of the efforts to stop the virus. We were in Washington. I'm in Washington State. It's the first state that's been hit in the US with a case of the virus. And so we had a lot of exposure to these things and we learned from it, learned a lot about what to say, what not to say. As a new brand, it's absolutely critical. And if that means being a little bit more silent, that's okay. We would not want to hurt people when you're promoting a new product. You want to build trust in a new way because it's not the same way. I read this report yesterday about the situation, the marketing changes, and there's one comment that struck me. They said you should not talk like business as usual. Don't absolutely not talk as if nothing happened. It's rather the opposite. It's either acknowledge it, modify what you're doing to not create anxiety, for example. Just look at what you're posting even your strategy. In our case, for video games, we were going to rely this year on a lot of video game conventions. We were going to go to different big places, and that's not happening. So we have to be cognizant of that and tell people about it.
Yeah. Anyone else maybe to add something before we jump to the next question, which I think is kind of related to this part anyway. Okay, I'm just going to open my slides really quickly. And we already touched on this a little bit, but maybe we need to expand. So what should your brand absolutely not be doing right now? And maybe not just your brand, but maybe you as a marketer shouldn't be kind of focused on, like, what is not a good spend of your time maybe right now? And Francesca, maybe back to you. What are you feeling here?
Yeah, as said before, it's definitely good to not try to take advantage out of the situation, but really offer support and understand what people are like trying to get or want to have. I think we need to show a lot of humility at the moment and be humble, also as a brand, not just as a marketer, but as a brand, and to really try to focus on how we can support and also to see what we can do in the future. And it's definitely, I think it's definitely important to not like stop everything and not completely downsize everything,
Right.
but to invest into the right tools and mechanics to still continue to communicate in a way. And I think also coming back to the last question, I think when we think about marketing now, marketing in the end is communication. So it's really not bullshitting people with your marketing buzzwords, but really talking to them. I think that's really important. So not do the regular stuff you did.
Yeah.
before.
And
Yeah,
I'm also interested
Sorry.
to maybe think of this from an agency perspective, Katie. I'm kind of asking you here because many of clients probably turn to you asking, what should we be doing? Should we be stopping all campaigns? Are some campaigns okay? I mean, some campaigns, maybe we're still yielding positive ROI, but the messaging, maybe if you look at it kind of broadly, wasn't just right. What were your recommendations?
We've got such a variety of clients, some that are in the hospitality and bar space. So for them, their initial reaction was, well, we can't do anything, we're closed. But we've worked with them to keep communication going and keep that brand alive. So we've also done DJ live sets, and we've done different things to try and keep that brand at the forefront. So when things do open, you're still going to be front and center when people want to return, when we can all go out and have a drink again, that you'll be known for it. But again, it's the same as what we've said. Don't try and capitalize on it. Don't try and business as usual, because this isn't usual. And it's being sympathetic to the fact the world's changed and making sure that your marketing messages reflect that, and test things. This is a great time to test, because so many people are on social right now. So many people are taking advantage of being on their screen because they're at home. They're just constantly looking for something to do and something to learn. So if you've always had that idea that you wanted to test a new feature or you wanted to try something new, now is the time to do it. And that's where we've had real success, is trying new firsts for brands. Because it's great as long as you've got that authentic message behind why you're doing it. It's a good time to see how things land.
And what's your take, and this is not necessarily a question to you, Katie, but a take on influencer marketing now? Just curious. I know, Stefan, the gaming community is super strong on sort of the content creators. Is it a time for that? It could be.
So yes, it's definitely the time for it, but in a completely new way. So influencer marketing has been extremely strong always for many years now in the video game industry. All digital companies have been using them, Instagram and everything. And it's definitely happening a lot more now because people are online a lot. They do watch a lot of people all the time. They're relying on that to get a certain form of entertainment, a break from their day and everything. So it is a part of our daily lives. And it's one that marketing is going to be using all the time. But what changes completely is the kind of influence you get from it. It's you know, influencer marketing is a field of its own, and it's been a complex one to navigate throughout the years. But right now it's changed because you have to be extremely genuine. Like one of the panelists said earlier, you have to target more than just selling your products. It's not just about that. If you want to build a brand, be genuine about your values. Target the right kind of audiences in this current environment. I give you an example. Some of one of our big online game has had community like this for many, many years, and part of that community was very generous kind of influencers or people who had mental health issues, and they turned to be very important for us, and we keep supporting them a lot to try to give them the tools to do it for the sake of these online communities. So I'd say yes, but be very smart about it. Don't try to get too much advantage out of this.
Yeah. And Mira, what
Yes.
about you in terms of kind of the, let's say, pointers for marketers of what not to do?
Yeah, I think, well, we should not be taking advantage of the situation, that's for sure. And we should be transparent and trustworthy, I would say, and ethical, most importantly. It's also something that, like, every day we learn every day, because sometimes we think that something would work, even if we have the data behind it, even if we listened a lot to what people are saying and all these behavior, but then we take something live and then it turns out that no, it's not working because it fires back something within the consumer. Like recently, it just happened in Morocco that we uploaded a recipe, which was something that Moroccans always liked, but in fact, people are more health conscious now, so they didn't like it. And they started commenting, we should be eating healthy now. So we had to take it down. So also we are learning every day. We're experimenting, A/B testing a lot on good stuff. Yeah, I think it's just building trust, and we're doing intensive work, and we're really talking to consumers. We're replying to all the comments. We're trying to be there with them. We're trying to have a conversation with them, not just, a formal approach. We're trying to be with them, to support them in a way, also talking to them all the time. So that is really helpful.
Yeah, and especially talking a lot to kind of especially the loyal customer base right now is so crucial, because they're aren't they the people who are going to stay with you, no matter what crisis kind of. And it's important to get that feedback. Amelie, how does it look with our audience's questions right now in the Q&A?
Yeah, lots of questions coming in. We have one recent one, which is about recruitment agencies, and what does the panelists suggest for how recruitment agencies should kind of what should they consider in their marketing right now?
Yeah, it's a tricky question, right? I don't know if you've seen that. We should have recruiters here to really answer this question properly, but I don't know if everyone has seen this meme where I think it was, what was the movie that it was from? But basically the meme was there was a kind of a future scenario after COVID-19 is over, and you had an interviewee kind of being interviewed by an employer. And it was a turn for the interviewee to ask the question. And the question was like, what did your brand do for its employees and its customers during the coronavirus pandemic? And I think, isn't this the time for your brand to kind of show what it stands behind and how it can protect the people that are working for them right now? What do you guys think?
That's super important. I think keeping culture, as I said at the very beginning of when we started talking, I think making sure that people who stick by you through this and put in the extra hours, which I'm sure everyone's doing, and are so understanding about the changes to the business and the way things are operating, deserve that when things start to settle down as well. And we've been very mindful of that in the things that we've put forward and the way that we are working to ensure that we are looking after the staff that have helped us get through what is the most bizarre situation I think any of us will ever live through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, many brands definitely double down on kind of this message, like, look, our employees are fine right now. We are taking care of them. What do others think?
Mantas, I actually wanted to jump in here and answer a question somebody asked in chat earlier at the beginning of this panel. They were asking, like, how do you explain to other people that business hours are very important, that we need to not take work outside of that? And that prompted the comment that you have to do the work within your company first before you even talk about anything. Take care of your employees, or their mental health, their processes, their needs. You talk about values externally, just take care of them internally, figure out the situation in this new world, and then you can start talking about them externally in a voice that makes sense for your audience. Companies are going to work completely differently. In my case, I may be out of the panelists the luckiest of all of them, because we all already digital. Our production pipeline is continuing. We've been able to adapt very, very easily, frankly. And so we're giving back more. The video game industry is giving a lot more back to people, because we're lucky, and not everybody is. Also, the economic environment for us is favorable. So we're not going to start pushing there, allowing other people to adapt earlier. But to me, the most important point of what not to do is communicate externally something that is not aligned internally, whether it's with processes, values, employees. Also, Mira mentioned a lot of times the environment. Know your country. I'm in the US. We operate during US business hours. Things are completely different here. Very different. Also, obviously, because of the kind of administration we have and the things they do, and it creates a very different vibe from Europe. I'm French, and I follow the news over there on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean, and this is a different vibe. I can read it, I can feel it. And I wouldn't talk as a company the same way in Europe or in Africa or in Asia as I do here.
Absolutely. Yeah. Before we run out of time, I just want to get to the last part of this discussion, and I'm going to just quickly share my slides very quickly. So this is the one that I'm particularly kind of feel there's a huge challenge, no matter what company you're in really right now, is how do you kind of face the uncertainty that's ahead? And that's whether it's the recession or how long this entire thing is going to last. For some businesses, it's they can't even operate really. How are you guys forecasting? How are you preparing for H2, or 2021? Who wants to take this one? Francesca, do you feel like you could answer this?
It's really hard to say, because there's so much uncertainty in that situation. And I mean, of course, our business is still not affected that much as many other businesses are. So we're still in a very good position. Also, we're a family business, which is great. So the family has also internally given us signs that the health is the first thing that is important, or should be important to all of us, then family, and then the company, which is also, I think, a great sign, and gives you a lot of support and certainty, and that in that uncertain situation. So what we're doing right now is, of course, we are trying to plan a reboot, or reboot activities, we call them, because as Mira already said before, we had to adapt and stop many things and replan things. But we do have a lot of great activities in the drawer that maybe are useful for a time after this crisis, which will be definitely different. So we won't have the normal situation anyhow, but there are some nice things that we're planning to adapt here. And then it's really hard to plan ahead, because also we are dependent on many other companies. We don't have offices in the whole world, but we do work with partners, and they are also struggling. So hard to tell. So hard to tell. I don't have an answer to that.
Yeah, that's the thing. No one currently really has an answer.
Yeah.
If maybe a general advice to everybody, and that's definitely the way we're operating right now, is to take it one step at a time.
Yeah.
Not try to go further than we should be going. We are planning 6 to 12 months ahead, absolutely, but we're not making these plans firm. We're looking at the next month and the next 2 or 3 months. We have events coming at the end of the year and we're considering them, but every single month we're revisiting all of that so that everybody understands, the plans are not locked down. None of this is completely known. 6 months from now, we may be in a completely different world again.
Yeah, I think the exchange we see now is really intense, and we have daily updates, and I think that's really important to communicate a lot about what's going on in the moment.
Yeah.
We have
Mira,
one
do you want
interesting.
to? Oh, so sorry.
No worries.
Mira, maybe you can also help just
Yeah,
like keeping
sure.
that in focus. We have one good question from Václav
Yeah.
from the audience, who's asking about kind of like what trends do we see emerging from this. So yeah, maybe.
So shall I answer this one or the uncertainty part? Let me talk about the trends actually. I think this drove Africa to a whole level of digital transformation, to be honest. We moved 5 years in few days. E-com started in Africa last week, which we didn't expect that, the people ordering online is not common in the region there. So we had to jump into the solution because we had to adapt to these circumstances. So we went to digital transformation, which we expected it in 5 years from now, so fast. And I think trends that I see, or that for a fact we see them coming, are of course people are. Yeah, there's an increase in online browsing and online spend or time spent online. We saw, for instance, 30% increase in audience in North Africa in 2 weeks, and that was really big. Millions of new users. People are embracing e-com now more than before. It's the only solution that they have because they cannot go out. Most of the things will be done virtually. People are exercising more. They're more cautious of their health, of what to eat, what to drink even. This giving us an opportunity to give them, recipes of how to build drinks to boost your immunity, for instance. So these are really acceptable now. Who would think about immunity before in Africa? You wouldn't even know what does this mean, So, and for sure, people are getting more creative now, and they're finding ways to kill the boredom. But also this will be, I think, the rise of new discovery on personal level. Like some people will discover new hobbies, some people will discover themselves again. That's what I see. And definitely there will be more appreciation of moments and experiences. I'm focusing on these because these are part of our communication strategy and part of what we're communicating to people or giving them solution around these trends.
And I suppose some of that ties into the uncertainty of it as well. It's like which of the behaviors are going to actually stick, because you got to plan for those as well. So is the e-commerce going to continue to be what it is now? And you got to forecast into that if you have an e-commerce platform, right?
Yeah, we don't know. That's the thing. Maybe if this will last for more than 1 or 2 months, then probably we're gonna have to do more stuff online and digital. Maybe not. We don't know. That's also part of living day by day and planning day by day. We canceled all the plans for all the year, all the commitment with the third party or anything that we cannot do anymore in this circumstances. But we're planning a week or even a month, but not further, because we don't know what's going to happen. Of course, we have an idea of the recovery plan or the recovery strategy, but it's still not confirmed.
And Katie, may I turn to you? What's your kind of, do you calm those worries for clients that are really asking you, like, tell us, what should we be preparing for in a couple of months from now?
Yeah, I think like every business, it's a bit tricky at the minute to know what life's going to be like even the next day, never mind the next few months and next year. So for us as a business, for Social Chain, we've been reforecasting fortnightly and just looking at where we can offer new services to our clients. And so we've been constantly, but looking in the next month or two, never, like, not to the end of the year. We've got plans, but who knows whether they'll stay in place. In terms of trends and things that we're noticing, I think that appreciation of moments that Mira said is incredibly important, and I think that'll be a trend that brands should really think about, because when we come out of this, I think one, there'll be an appreciation for a slower pace of life. I don't know about everyone else and the people that are watching, but I've massively benefited from that slower pace of life, not rushing around so much, not having to be here, there and everywhere. And for me, I think I'm going to definitely make changes to reflect that. I'm sure I'm not alone. So, but I know that I'm going to appreciate every moment that I can, big or small, moving forward. And I think life will change, and I think what we do from this is going to be, I think it's going to be interesting. It's a great opportunity. That's what we've looked at it as. It's like, social gives us an opportunity to give people experiences and make them feel better and connect people. That's the wonder of what we work in. Like, we are connectors for the world, and being part of that for me has made me very proud. So
yeah, that's a really, really good point. And I also genuinely personally hope is no matter how kind of long this lasts, is that we do take away lessons from this. You know, the tendency for people is to forget very quickly when things happen. And so there's definitely, like you said, parts to working like this that are beneficial. And so I hope that they remain. Maybe we can move to the Q&A session, Amelie, if we have questions coming in.
Yes, sure. Let's see. So we had one more question, which was about like kind of like what do we see in terms of like confidentiality issues when working remotely? What are the kind of like tips and tricks to manage confidentiality conditions and confidentiality agreements? So very, very technical question.
Who has experience with dealing with confidential information via all remote environment?
I have. We've been dealing with this in the video game industry for many years now, and I mean, it depends the level of confidentiality you want to ensure, right? It goes from a simple contract to actual information. If it harms you, if it gets out, and I think a really good rule in general is to make everything very explicit. Don't take anything for granted. Explain to people what you expect. Whether it's in an email or in writing an official document, because there are ways, depending on the countries, where you can absolutely do that. So, but in this world of over communication nowadays, we have to be precise, and we have to really take into account maybe the time differences, or the fact that the people we talk to don't exactly understand what's expected of them. And beyond confidentiality, I think it's much more important to make sure that we all are aligned, because I think when we used to meet face to face, or not be anxious about information, we used to process it much more directly, much more easily, and understand it better.
Those are good points. Anyone else had experience with dealing with sort of confidential information currently? Yeah, not personally myself. There's a question from Faju coming in that I think it's pretty good. I'm going to display it live. So the question is, how do you, as an agency, if you're managing sort of the content production, and the editing tools and the video production, that's usually done in studio. How do you cope with actually moving this from home? How are you doing it now? And I suppose all of us have kind of a studio setup at work, but I know, Katie, you must be doing a lot of studio content for your clients. How are you managing it now?
We have moved away from obviously doing shoots because we can't be seen to be social distancing whilst out doing shoots. So we are editing at home the pieces that we've already made, using the software that we've got, that we let the teams take home their big screens and everything in the office when we knew that we were closing, so they had access to being able to work and it's working. We're still at the output is still the same, but as I said at the beginning, our offering is flexed, so we're doing a lot more animation, we're doing a lot more design and illustration, because that's the stuff we can do from home, and photography as well. When we've had some shoots in people's houses. It's just making the most of what you've got and being able to use that content and skills that that the team. And to be honest, the ones that can't go out and do production have been upskilling in other areas as well. So even though it's a strange time, I know that we're going to come out of this with so many more skills and so much more efficiency than we've ever had before, because we've embraced it in a strange way.
Yeah, and aren't the users a little bit sort of more forgiving in terms of the production value at the moment? I think you can get away with a lot currently.
You can see it on the TV in the UK especially. There's so many clips now where TV shows are being done via mobile conference and things like that, and people aren't expecting the same polished values, and I don't think they do on social anyway. It fits into that authenticity piece, so it's becoming more of a norm, which is an interesting shift from people trying to recreate TV quality onto social, whereas now it's like social quality onto TV.
Yeah.
Can I mention, we've been trying to also work with some production companies, and we're still trying to output some really quality content, but it has to be organized completely differently from the script. You have to rethink entirely how you make something like this work. And something Katie said made me think that it's more than just the video content you push, it's where you push it, right? I've noticed we work with musicians, and for example, they go on Instagram Live a lot. And the production quality here it's not to TV standards, because Instagram Live doesn't allow you to push that kind of quality on a mobile phone anyway. So in a way, it's not just what kind of software you're going to be using, is how are you going to use that content. And we've seen some very creative ways. I mentioned before we started the cast of Hamilton, this very famous show in the US and in the world. They made this like 5 minutes broadcast live on a show, on a YouTube show, where they all got together and started singing together at the show. And that wasn't high quality, but that was absolutely fantastic production.
I think that's the point. People get way more creative, and on the other hand side, even like a badly filmed webcast can be super entertaining. So it's not the way how it's done, but the content, like what is said, is really important now. So
and I almost feel like there was for us, I feel like we're making more content than we did before. It's just a crazy amount, and I think there was almost this feeling of like, look, can we actually pull this off? Can we do this? Can we continue making videos? And it was like a challenge, and I think you can do it from home. It's possible. Yeah. Mira, what's your experience? Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Mira, what's your experience? How is your department sort of dealing with the content creation remotely?
Also, we're also just being a little bit less, sometimes the client could be a little bit, demanding or too demanding in terms of what we want in a picture or in an image, or we want everything to be perfect. But it's more now on, we're fine with static, we're fine with just animation, as long as the message is strong, I think. And ironically, the simple stuff are working much more than before now. So we usually just, you put a lot of money on creating content, shooting videos, or, thinking about an idea that will be really amazing in production. But then now we just put like something really tiny with a little bit of effect, and then you're there, you touch the heart of the consumer. That's authenticity. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And we have a lot of people in a chat agreeing with you that right now they prefer just, authenticity as opposed to a polished look. Totally.
Yeah, that's true.
Totally true. Stefan, you were going to say something and then I brutally interrupted you.
No, sorry. I was going, and I think Mira said a lot of it. It's not like people are also struggling to receive that content. It's something that we marketers have to adapt to, right? We used to have adjustments based on quality and standards that don't exist anymore. because the people receiving that content also are on a mobile phone, they're at home, they're on a bad internet connection. It's a new audience. That's something somebody mentioned before. We're getting millions and millions more people watching us,
Yeah.
but they're watching us differently. That report I was reading yesterday was definitely saying that the increase in numbers we're seeing do not match more people being interested necessarily in buying our products.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. You know, they may be here for entertainment, they may be here for awareness. I've seen a lot of brands online that are really generally trying to be entertaining, and that's okay, you know. And it will eventually bring sales and give them more opportunities to be relevant to the people in this new age. I really want authenticity in a new world, because we used to have that problem before, right? And in this new world, being authentic means also admitting your faults, admitting your weaknesses, and building on top of what you have.
Yeah, absolutely. If authenticity is one thing among all the many things that we have already mentioned in this virtual discussion that we take away from this moment and bring it into the future, I would love for that to happen, right? It's been, people were complaining about this, the audiences for a long time, in terms of influencer content, in terms of the brand content, and it looks like we've been forced to be authentic in some sense. Before we wrap this up, is there any kind of point that any of you would want to add to kind of the full stop to the conversation, or just wave goodbye to the audience who was especially active?
I have one, if you don't mind, Mantras.
Of course, Stefan, yeah.
It's actually an answer I wanted to give to the question, as how do we deal with uncertainties? And somebody actually mentioned it, but didn't say it that way. I think by us not being so uncertain, we are. I
think we lost Stefan's sound.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yes. You will have to start that point from scratch.
I was going to say about the uncertainty. We are actors of change as brands. We can change that. We can bring a certain level of confidence to people, even if we're not selling our products exactly. We don't need to be shy. We need to be genuine. And that's a change. People seeing that will also become that. Mental health was mentioned before. And if we acknowledge it, I have a colleague in about 2 hours that's going to help give us a talk to video gamers online on Twitch about that topic. And if we embrace that change, we are removing some uncertainty for other people, and hopefully they do the same.
Yeah, that's a beautiful point. I feel bad that we couldn't get to all the audience's questions, but I know that you all have busy schedules as well, although we're all kind of stuck at home, so I don't know. But thank you all for being here today and helping us get through all the questions and get through this difficult topic, and actually a lot of uncertainty. And yeah, just thank you for being so open and honest.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Yeah,
thank you very much.
More questions as well from everyone. It's great.
Yeah, and we'll try to get you on, you know, when maybe we'll start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and we can talk about this again. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a great week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.